The story began on a planet far from Earth, a place that very few humans had ever imagined visiting. It was a small research outpost built by a team of scientists, engineers, and explorers who had dedicated their lives to studying the unknown. The planet itself was mysterious, with strange landscapes that seemed alive in ways no one could fully understand. The skies shimmered with unusual colors, and the ground sometimes seemed to shift subtly, as if the planet itself was aware of every step the humans took. Life there was fragile, and the team had to be cautious, relying on technology and careful planning to survive. Each day brought new discoveries: strange rock formations, unusual plant life, and tiny creatures that moved in patterns too precise to be random. But nothing in their training or research had prepared them for the moment that changed everything one evening. As the sun set and painted the horizon with shades of deep red and orange, the communications officer noticed something strange on the monitors. It was a signal, faint but persistent, coming from deep within the planet's atmosphere. At first, no one knew what to make of it. The signal was unlike any natural phenomenon they had ever recorded. It wasn't a simple radio wave or a static discharge. It was structured, deliberate, and unmistakably intelligent. The team gathered around the main console, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of the screens. The lead scientist, Dr. Elena Morris, frowned as she examined the patterns. "This doesn't make sense," she said quietly. "It's not from us. It's not from any known human technology. Someone or something is trying to communicate." The team spent hours trying to decode it. Each time they thought they had found a pattern, new data arrived that made the signal even more complex. There were repetitions, variations, and bursts of energy that seemed almost emotional, as if whoever or whatever was sending the message was desperate. The words SOS were nowhere to be seen, but the urgency could be felt in every pulse. It was a plea, a call for help that transcended language. As the night wore on, the atmosphere in the research station grew tense. Some team members whispered about the possibility of alien life, while others worried it could be a trap, a warning of dangers beyond human understanding back on Earth. When the signal reached mission control, it caused immediate concern. Military officials, government analysts, and top scientists were called together to assess the situation. Everyone had heard rumors about distress signals from unknown parts of the galaxy, but most dismissed them as interference, cosmic anomalies, or hoaxes. This signal was different. It had a clarity and consistency that could not be ignored. The message seemed real, urgent, and terrifying. It demanded attention, but responding carried immense risk. The world had never faced a situation like this before. Real-time plea from another intelligent civilization, potentially on the brink of destruction. The debates began immediately. Some argued that humanity had no right to interfere in the affairs of another civilization. They warned of potential dangers, of provoking forces that humans could not possibly understand or control. Others believed that ignoring the SOS would be morally wrong. If there were beings suffering, didn't humanity have a duty to help, no matter the risk? The discussions went on for days, with experts analyzing every possible scenario. Communications were cross-checked, scientific instruments calibrated, and simulations run to predict the outcome of any action. But despite all the analysis, no one could be sure what the right choice was. Meanwhile, on the planet itself, the research team continued to monitor the signal closely. The aliens or whoever was sending the distress call began to show signs of urgency beyond what the team had ever seen. The pulses grew stronger, more frequent, and carried patterns that suggested fear, panic, and an almost human-like understanding of danger. Dr. Morris realized that time was running out. The beings on the other end of the signal were in immediate peril, and waiting too long could mean they were lost forever. The sense of responsibility weighed heavily on her. This was no longer just a scientific experiment. It had become a moral decision, a test of humanity's courage and compassion. The research station itself became a hive of activity. Engineers worked tirelessly to improve the communication arrays, trying to strengthen the signal and respond in some meaningful way. Pilots and navigators prepared for the possibility of a mission that could take them to the edge of known space. Even the support staff, who had never imagined themselves at the center of a galactic crisis, found themselves drawn into the urgency. Everyone understood that the universe outside was vast, dangerous, and unpredictable. But the call for help was a reminder that humanity was not alone and that some forces beyond understanding were at play. Night after night, the signal continued. The team grew obsessed with it, spending hours trying to interpret its meaning. Patterns in the pulses hinted at locations, numbers, and perhaps even messages of hope. The aliens seemed intelligent, capable of complex thought, and aware of their own danger. They were not just broadcasting distress, they were pleading, warning, and perhaps even begging for assistance. Each decoding attempt brought small revelations, but the true nature of the threat remained a mystery. The fear was palpable. The unknown hung over the team like a shadow. Every sound, every shift in the monitors, made them jump. Yet, there was also a strange sense of purpose, where we're witnessing history, participating in a moment that could change humanity forever. As the team worked tirelessly, a sense of connection grew between them and the unknown beings sending the SOS, the signal. Though alien, seemed almost alive, and the humans began to respond in subtle ways. Messages of reassurance were sent, carefully crafted to convey understanding, solidarity, and hope. It was impossible to know if the aliens understood, but the act of trying created a bond of fragile bridge across the vast emptiness of space. The research station, once a place of routine observation, had become a lifeline. Each team member felt the weight of responsibility, knowing that their actions could mean the difference between survival and annihilation for an entire civilization. Then, one day, as the monitors flickered and the signal pulsed urgently, the team detected a new pattern, something they had not seen before. It was a sequence that hinted at coordinates, a location where the danger was most imminent. Excitement and fear mingled in equal measure. Dr. Maurice knew that this discovery could be the key to understanding the SOS fully. It meant that the aliens were not just sending a random distress signal, they were pointing to a specific threat, a danger that needed immediate attention. The possibility of a rescue, or at least intervention, seemed real, yet the risks remained staggering. Whatever lay at those coordinates could be beyond humanity's capacity to confront that at the same time. Earth continued to deliberate. Governments and military leaders debated whether to send a response mission, knowing that any action could provoke consequences humanity could not foresee. Some argued for sending reconnaissance probes, others for preparing a fleet ready to intervene if necessary. Ethical questions loomed large. Could humans intervene without causing more harm? Could they trust the signal, or was it a trap set by an unknown intelligence? The tension was immense, and every day that passed without a decision added to the sense of urgency. Humanity was staring into the unknown, confronted with the reality that the universe was larger, stranger, and far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. Meanwhile, the research team grew more anxious. The alien signal began to display subtle signs of desperation. Pulses became irregular, and certain frequencies seemed almost like cries of fear. The team worked around the clock, analyzing, decoding, and trying to interpret the meaning. Every small breakthrough brought hope, but also new questions. Who were these beings? What threat were they facing? And most importantly, could humans reach them in time? The answers were unknown, but one thing was certain: the SOS had changed everything. Humanity could no longer ignore the wider universe, and the people on that remote planet had become the center of a story that would stretch across galaxies. It was clear that the discovery of the SOS was more than just a scientific breakthrough. It was a moral challenge, a test of courage, and an opening to an adventure that none of the humans had anticipated. Every character, from the lead scientist to the youngest technician, felt the gravity of the situation. They were no longer merely observers, they were participants in a moment that could reshape the future of not just Earth, but countless lives across the stars. The tension, excitement, and mystery set the stage for everything that would come next, leaving both the humans and the audience on the edge of their seats, eager to see how the universe would respond to this desperate call for help. The moment humanity received the SOS, the world seemed to pause. Governments, scientists, military leaders, and civilians all struggled to comprehend what had just happened. For centuries, humans had looked to the stars, wondering if they were alone in the universe. Some hoped for contact, others feared it. Yet now, the proof was undeniable. An intelligent species, somewhere far from Earth, was in grave danger and had called for help. The signal was urgent, persistent, and frighteningly real. It demanded action, but the question was, how should humanity respond? Inside the highest levels of Earth's command centers, experts gathered in emergency meetings. They pored over every detail of the signal, analyzing frequencies, patterns, and possible meanings. Some experts suggested ignoring it altogether, warning that the message could be a trap. Humanity had no idea what forces might be waiting on the other end. The unknown was terrifying. Others argued that turning away from a plea for help was morally unacceptable. If this civilization was indeed facing destruction, failure to respond would be a decision humanity might regret for centuries. The debates were intense and emotional. People shouted, argued, and sometimes even walked out of meetings in frustration. The stakes were clear. The decision could mean life or death, not just for the alien civilization but potentially for humanity itself. After days of discussion, Earth decided to act. A response mission was approved, but it would be unlike any mission ever undertaken. The best scientists, engineers, and strategists were selected, forming a team tasked with understanding the SOS and preparing for the worst. Among them were experts in alien linguistics, cryptography, and interstellar navigation. Pilots who had trained for extreme scenarios volunteered, knowing that the journey could lead them into unimaginable danger. Even civilians with unique skills were recruited, as the mission required creative problem-solving that could not always be predicted. The task force began training and preparing, working day and night to anticipate every challenge they might face. Meanwhile, the team on the distant planet continued to study the SOS. The alien signal grew more urgent, repeating certain sequences that seemed almost like a cry for help. The research team realized that these sequences could indicate danger zones, perhaps areas where the alien civilization had already suffered destruction or was under immediate threat. Each repetition brought new insights but also new fears. The planet itself was a strange and unpredictable environment, making communication and analysis even more difficult. Instruments occasionally malfunctioned. Strange atmospheric phenomena disrupted readings, and unknown life forms interfered with sensors. Yet the team persevered. They understood that the aliens' survival depended on them, and the weight of responsibility was immense. Back on Earth, Mission Control faced logistical challenges. The SOS came from a planet hundreds of light years away, far beyond the reach of conventional spacecraft. Humanity's fastest probes could take decades to reach the target. The only realistic option was to send unmanned reconnaissance ships first, equipped with advanced sensors, communication devices, and automated defense systems. These ships would analyze the planet, observe the alien civilization, and try to detect any threats. If the reconnaissance mission succeeded, humans could consider a manned response, but even that would be a monumental challenge. The decisions were complicated, and every delay carried risk. The clock was ticking. The preparation was intense. Engineers built advanced communication arrays capable of sending signals faster than ever before, hoping to reach the aliens in a way that would reassure them and help coordinate rescue efforts. Pilots trained in simulated environments, practicing maneuvers that no human had ever performed before. Scientists ran countless simulations, predicting potential scenarios, hostile alien forces, environmental disasters, or even technological failures that could doom the mission. Anxiety ran high, but excitement and determination were equally strong. Humanity was stepping into the unknown, driven by curiosity, compassion, and courage. As the reconnaissance ships prepared for launch, the alien signal revealed subtle new details. Patterns emerged that hinted at the alien civilization's technology, culture, and even emotional state. The messages suggested fear, desperation, and a profound awareness of mortality. The aliens were not just asking for help, they were expressing hope, pleading for survival, and revealing the extent of the danger they faced. The humans analyzing the data felt a strange connection to these beings. Despite the vast distances and differences, it was as if empathy could bridge the emptiness of space. During this time, the world watched with bated breath. News of the SOS had spread across Earth, and people everywhere speculated about what might happen. Some were fearful, imagining an unstoppable alien threat waiting for humanity to make a mistake. Others were hopeful, imagining the possibility of making first contact and helping a civilization in need. Schools, universities, and online forums were filled with debates, discussions, and predictions. The SOS had captured humanity's imagination, making the abstract idea of extraterrestrial life suddenly urgent and personal. The reconnaissance mission eventually launched, traveling faster than anything humanity had ever sent before. The automated ships carried sophisticated sensors to capture images, detect energy signatures, and analyze the planet's surface and atmosphere. They were equipped with AI systems capable of interpreting alien signals and responding in real time. Humanity waited anxiously for the first data to arrive, knowing that even a small piece of information could be critical. The tension was palpable. Every beep, every signal, felt like a heartbeat in the vast silence of space. While the ships were en route, the research team on the planet continued to study the SOS in unprecedented detail. They discovered subtle nuances in the message frequencies that suggested a hierarchy, patterns that hinted at social structures, and variations that indicated emotional states. That aliens were highly intelligent, capable of cooperation, strategy, and emotion. They were also in immediate danger, facing threats that humans could only imagine. The research team began to feel a mixture of awe and fear. The situation was urgent, but it was also historic. Humanity was witnessing, and now participating in, a story that could change the course of civilization. Finally, the first data from the reconnaissance ships arrived. The images were astonishing. Sprawling cities, intricate technology, and evidence of life that was both familiar and alien. Energy readings suggested weapons, defensive systems, and possibly signs of conflict. The mission control team realized that the SOS was no ordinary distress call, it was a warning. A call for intervention against a force capable of immense destruction. The stakes were higher than anyone had anticipated. Humanity had not just discovered a civilization in peril. It had glimpsed the potential scale of a galactic threat. The team on Earth worked tirelessly to interpret the data. Every new signal, image, and reading was analyzed, cross-referenced, and debated. The decisions had to be made carefully, as any miscalculation could have catastrophic consequences. Scientists debated the best ways to assist the aliens. Military experts considered defensive and offensive strategies, and ethicists argued about the moral implications of intervention. Despite the challenges, there was a shared understanding. Inaction was not an option. Humanity had been called, and it was now a choice between stepping forward or turning away. Throughout all this, the SOS continued to repeat, growing more urgent with each passing day. The aliens' desperation was palpable, and the humans analyzing the signal felt the pressure of responsibility weighing heavily on them. Every delay could mean lives lost. Every breakthrough, however small, brought hope. Humanity had crossed a threshold. It was no longer just observing the universe. It was engaging with it in a direct and dangerous way. The decisions made in this phase would shape the survival of another civilization and, ultimately, the understanding of humanity's place in the cosmos. The situation was clear. The SOS was genuine. The alien civilization was in immediate peril, and humanity had committed to action. The reconnaissance ships were on their way, carrying humanity's first real contact with a distant, intelligent species. The world waited anxiously for the next phase of the story, knowing that what came next could change history forever. The urgency, tension, and awe of this moment set the stage for the arrival of forces no human could have imagined, creating a bridge between desperation and hope, fear and courage, the known and the unknown. As the reconnaissance ships approached the distant planet, humanity held its breath. For the first time, humans were on the verge of seeing an alien civilization in distress. The data streams coming from the ships painted a picture both beautiful and terrifying. The cities sprawled across the planet like giant webs of light and metal, with structures that seemed almost alive, moving with subtle shifts that suggested a level of engineering far beyond human understanding. Energy readings pulsed rhythmically, hinting at advanced technology, perhaps weapons or defense systems. Yet the most important element was the alien life itself, the species that had sent the SOS. They were intelligent, highly organized and clearly aware of danger, but they were on the verge of collapse. Every pattern, every signal, carried fear, desperation, and hope all at once. Then it happened. From the depths of space, massive shapes emerged on the horizon of the alien planet. At first, the humans monitoring the data thought it might be a malfunction, some interference, or a natural phenomenon. But as the images sharpened, it became undeniable. The Deathworlders had arrived. These beings, legends in human astronomy and interstellar intelligence reports, were unlike anything humanity had ever imagined. Their ships were enormous, towering structures of dark metal, glowing with energy fields that shimmered like liquid light. Each vessel was a fortress in itself, bristling with weapons and shielding systems that could withstand forces humans could not comprehend. Their presence was awe-inspiring, terrifying, and strangely majestic all at once. The reaction on Earth was immediate. Military commanders, scientists, and world leaders stared at the screens in disbelief. The Deathworlders were a species of warriors that had been rumored in galactic history but never confirmed. Stories described them as unstoppable, their combat tactics and technology unmatched. Humanity had never interacted with them before, and yet here they were, responding to an SOS that had originated from a species humanity barely understood. The implications were staggering. If these beings were willing to arrive at the request of another civilization, what did that mean for humans? Were they allies, observers, or something far more dangerous? Back on the alien planet, the native species reacted with equal astonishment. Their sensors picked up the massive fleet of Deathworlders, and the atmosphere became electric with tension. Some celebrated, realizing that help had finally arrived. Others trembled, unsure if the Deathworlders were saviors or a new threat. The alien civilization was aware of the stories of the legends of the Deathworlders. Power had been passed down through generations, but nothing could have prepared them for the reality. The sheer scale of the fleet was overwhelming, each vessel dwarfing their cities, casting enormous shadows across the landscapes, and projecting energy that made the very air vibrate for the humans observing from afar. The moment was both exhilarating and terrifying. On one hand, the arrival of the Deathworlders meant that the aliens' SOS was being answered. Their civilization had a chance of survival that it would not have had otherwise. On the other hand, the sheer power of the Deathworlders was difficult to comprehend. Humanity had been preparing for a mission of assistance, but now they realized how small and fragile they truly were. The scale of the forces arriving on the planet was beyond anything human technology could match. It was a humbling and frightening revelation. The universe was far larger and more dangerous than humans had ever imagined. The Deathworlders did not approach quietly. Their ships moved with precision and authority, scanning the planet and surrounding space with sensors that humans could barely detect. There was no hesitation in their actions. Every movement was deliberate, every signal a command. It was clear that they were assessing the situation, understanding the threat, and preparing for immediate intervention. The alien civilization watched with a mix of fear and hope. Finally, the moment they had been waiting for was at hand. Their legendary saviors had arrived, but the outcome was still unknown. The threat that had prompted the SOS revealed itself shortly afterward. A massive alien warlord, a being feared across nearby star systems, had been advancing toward the planet with the intent of total conquest. Its forces were numerous, technologically advanced, and ruthless. The alien civilization had been outmatched from the start, their defenses overwhelmed. Yet the arrival of the Deathworlders changed everything. What had once seemed inevitable destruction and annihilation was no longer certain. The Deathworlders' presence alone shifted the balance, introducing a force that could challenge the invader in ways no one had anticipated. Humanity observed in stunned silence as the Deathworlders began to act. Their ships deployed advanced drones, energy shields, and weapons that humans could barely comprehend. The invaders' forces, once confident, faltered under the overwhelming presence of the death. Skirmishes erupted in the skies above the alien cities, and the battles were swift, precise, and devastating. The Deathworlders displayed tactics that combined intelligence, strategy, and sheer destructive power in ways that seemed almost artistic. Humanity watched, learning in awe about the scale and intensity of galactic warfare. It was both terrifying and mesmerizing. The alien species on the planet experienced a mixture of relief and disbelief. For generations they had hoped for salvation, and now it had arrived, but in a form that was more powerful and mysterious than they could have imagined. The Deathworlders were not just rescuers, they were unstoppable warriors, capable of turning the tide of war in moments. The native aliens realized that survival was now within reach, but it came with a humbling recognition. Their world's fate had been in the hands of forces far greater than themselves. Meanwhile, humans continued to monitor every move. They saw the precision with which the Deathworlders navigated the battlefield, the way they neutralized threats with minimal collateral damage, and the calm authority in every maneuver. It was a lesson in strategy, power, and responsibility. Humanity realized that the SOS had done more than call for help. It had summoned a force that could reshape the galaxy. The scale of the intervention was almost unimaginable. For the first time, humans understood the meaning of Deathworlders, species so powerful that their arrival alone could change the outcome of wars and civilizations. As the battles unfolded, it became clear that the Deathworlders' purpose was not destruction for its own sake. They were precise, methodical, and focused entirely on neutralizing the immediate threat to the alien civilization. The humans watching were awestruck by the efficiency and effectiveness of the Deathworlders' actions. The entire enemy squadrons were neutralized in minutes, while the cities below remained largely unharmed. Humanity could see, in real time, a demonstration of what it meant to wield immense power responsibly. The alien civilization had survived the initial assault, thanks to the death. Humanity realized the magnitude of what they had witnessed. The SOS had triggered an intervention that no one could have predicted, bringing a legendary species into play to protect life in the galaxy. For the humans observing, it was a moment of both awe and fear. The universe was no longer just a vast emptiness of stars. It was a place of incredible power, intelligence, and danger, where the smallest civilizations could be protected or destroyed by forces beyond imagination. The arrival of the Deathworlders had changed everything, setting the stage for conflicts, alliances, and revelations that would define humanity's understanding of the cosmos for generations to come. Once the Deathworlders had positioned themselves above the alien planet, the real battle began. The alien warlord, the force that had caused the SOS in the first place, had not expected anyone to intervene. Its army, vast and merciless, had already swept through neighboring planets, leaving nothing but ruins in its wake. But now, facing the Deathworlders, it realized that it had underestimated the consequences of its actions. The skies above the planet lit up with energy weapons, massive ships maneuvering with precision that no human eyes could fully follow. For humanity watching from afar, it was both beautiful and terrifying, a cosmic dance of power that was almost impossible to comprehend. The Deathworlders did not act chaotically. Every movement, every strike, was deliberate and controlled. Their ships were enormous, but their pilots and commanders operated with uncanny precision, coordinating attacks as though they were extensions of a single mind. They neutralized enemy ships before they could reach the alien cities, dismantling formations with a calm efficiency that made the humans monitoring the battle hold their breath in awe. Even the most advanced human military simulations could not have predicted the tactics of the Death. Every maneuver seemed to anticipate the enemy's response before it happened, and every attack was devastating yet controlled. The alien warlords' forces were relentless. Squadrons of ships moved in tight formations, energy beams cutting through space with deadly accuracy. But they were no match for the Deathworlders' technology and strategy. Entire fleets were obliterated in seconds, while smaller enemy groups were forced to retreat or were eliminated with surgical precision. It became obvious that the Deathworlders' mission was not destruction for its own sake, it was protection. Their focus was entirely on safeguarding the alien civilization, minimizing collateral damage while neutralizing the threat. Humanity watched in disbelief, realizing that this was not just a battle. It was a display of intelligence, discipline, and sheer power beyond anything they had known. On the planet below, the alien species experienced a rollercoaster of emotions. For years, they had feared annihilation, witnessing their neighbors fall to this merciless warlord. Now, as the Deathworlders engaged the invaders, hope surged through their cities. Citizens who had spent weeks hiding, fearful of the inevitable, now looked to the skies with a mixture of awe and disbelief. Children pressed their faces to observation windows, elders whispered prayers, and leaders coordinated relief efforts, taking advantage of the brief reprieve to protect their people. The arrival of the Deathworlders had not just saved their cities, it had given them a chance to survive and rebuild, a hope that had seemed impossible only days before. Meanwhile, the Deathworlders' battle tactics were like nothing humanity had ever seen. Ships moved in coordinated waves, using energy shields and advanced weaponry to target threats before they could even act. Enemy ships that thought they had an advantage found themselves trapped, disabled, or destroyed without understanding how it had happened. The Deathworlders also demonstrated incredible adaptability, shifting strategies in real time, responding to unexpected maneuvers with an almost instinctual precision. Humans watching the live feed began to realize that the SOS had summoned not just saviors, but an unstoppable force capable of reshaping the balance of power across the galaxy. For humanity, it was a humbling experience. Scientists, military leaders, and civilians alike watched in awe, realizing how small and fragile they truly were in comparison. The Deathworlders' arrival and effectiveness were a lesson in cosmic scale and responsibility. Humans had thought they understood warfare, strategy, and defense, but the events unfolding on the alien planet proved just how limited that understanding was. Every new maneuver, every calculated strike, revealed a level of coordination and foresight that no human mind could replicate. Yet there was also a sense of hope. If such beings existed to protect the innocent, perhaps humanity could learn, adapt, and find ways to navigate the greater universe responsibly. The alien warlord, despite its previous victories and confidence, began to falter under the Deathworlders' assault. Its ships, once considered invincible, were destroyed or captured in record time. Entire battalions surrendered or fled in panic, realizing that resistance was futile. The Deathworlders' strategy was not just brute force, it was psychological warfare. The enemy was systematically demoralized, forced to realize that they could not outmatch a force so disciplined, precise, and powerful. Humanity could observe every moment, understanding for the first time the sheer magnitude of galactic power and the stakes involved in interstellar conflict. While the skies burned with energy and the alien warlords' forces fell apart, the Deathworlders continued to protect the cities and civilians below. Energy shields covered entire regions, repelling attacks and preventing destruction. Rescue operations for injured civilians began simultaneously, with Deathworlder drones evacuating populations from danger zones. The aliens watched in AEW, realizing that these beings were not just saviors, they were caretakers, warriors who understood the value of life and the responsibility that came with immense power. Humanity observed, realizing that this was not just a battle for survival, it was a lesson in ethics, strategy, and cosmic responsibility. The battle raged for hours, though to humans watching it felt like seconds. Every strike, every movement, was meticulously calculated. The Deathworlders showed patience, never overextending, always maintaining control. They eliminated the enemy while minimizing collateral damage, giving the alien civilization a chance not only to survive but to recover. For the humans monitoring the battle, it was almost unreal. Their imagination had never reached this scale of power, strategy, and responsibility. They began to realize that the universe was filled with forces far beyond human comprehension, and that survival required humility, intelligence, and cooperation on an interstellar scale. By the time the battle ended, the alien civilization had survived the immediate threat. The warlords' forces were destroyed, scattered, or trapped, and the cities below were mostly intact, thanks to the Deathworlders' careful strategy. The alien leaders breathed a collective sigh of relief, realizing that they had been given a second chance. Citizens returned cautiously to their streets, children stepped outside to see the skies clear, and families reunited. The devastation had been halted, and a new sense of hope filled the planet. Humanity, watching from afar, felt a mix of awe, fear, and inspiration. The SOS had not just been answered, it had triggered a display of power and responsibility that would shape humans' understanding of the galaxy for years to come. In the aftermath, humans analyzed every detail of the battle. They studied the Deathworlders' movements, their strategy, their discipline, and their precision. Every aspect of the engagement became a lesson in warfare, ethics, and the responsibility that comes with immense power. Humanity realized that the universe was far larger, more dangerous, and more complex than previously imagined. Civilizations could rise and fall in moments, and yet, intervention by the right force could make the difference between survival and annihilation. The SOS had not just saved a civilization, it had reshaped humanity's perception of cosmic reality. It was clear that the Deathworlders had achieved exactly what they came to do. The alien civilization survived, the enemy was neutralized, and the humans observing had gained unprecedented insight into the scale and complexity of interstellar conflict. The skies cleared, the cities began to recover, and the alien species realized that life would continue but forever changed. The SOS that had seemed like a simple cry for help had become the catalyst for a chain of events that demonstrated the full extent of power, responsibility, and strategy in the galaxy. Humanity, watching from afar, could only wonder what the next phase would bring and how the presence of such beings might shape the future of life across the stars. When the dust finally settled above the alien planet, a strange calm returned. The once chaotic skies, filled with energy blasts and massive ships maneuvering with deadly precision, were now empty. The invader, the warlord who had threatened to destroy the alien civilization, had been completely neutralized. The Deathworlders, whose arrival had changed the course of events, hovered quietly at the edge of the planet's atmosphere before slowly beginning to leave. Their presence, while immense and powerful, was subtle in its disappearance. It was as if they had been there all along to maintain balance, and now that their mission was complete, they were vanishing back into the vastness of space, leaving humanity and the alien species to wonder at the full scope of what had occurred for the alien civilization. The aftermath was overwhelming. Their cities, though largely intact thanks to the Deathworlders' precise tactics, bore the scars of battle. Buildings were damaged, infrastructure had been disrupted, and many lives had been lost or injured despite the protection offered. People stepped out cautiously, unsure if the danger had truly passed. Families reunited with tears and relief, embracing those they had feared they might never see again. Leaders of the alien cities worked frantically to coordinate relief and repair efforts, organizing medical aid, food distribution, and shelter for those displaced by the conflict. There was a sense of exhaustion, but also profound gratitude for having survived what had seemed inevitable destruction. Humanity, observing from afar, felt a mixture of awe, fear, and fascination. No human had ever witnessed such a scale of intervention before. The Deathworlders, beings of almost mythical reputation, had displayed a level of power, precision, and strategy that was unimaginable. Every move they had made, from neutralizing the warlord's fleet to protecting civilians, was calculated and effective. Humans could see that these beings were not merely warriors, they were a force that understood responsibility, morality, and the balance between destruction and preservation. This realization left people on Earth humbled and inspired. Humanity had glimpsed the potential of beings far beyond their own comprehension, and it reshaped their understanding of the galaxy and their place within it. As the Deathworlders began to leave, the alien civilization experienced mixed emotions. On one hand, there was relief and gratitude they had survived. Their cities were mostly intact, and the threat had been neutralized. On the other hand, there was awe and uncertainty. These beings, whose technology and power surpassed anything they had imagined, had appeared, intervened, and disappeared as suddenly as they had arrived. The aliens had no way of predicting if the Deathworlders would ever return, and their sudden departure left a lingering sense of mystery. It was clear that while the immediate danger was gone, the universe was filled with forces far greater than themselves, and survival would require new understanding, cooperation, and vigilance. Back on Earth, discussions began immediately about what had just transpired. Analysts and scientists pored over every frame of data, every energy signature, every tactical maneuver the Deathworlders had employed. They attempted to understand not only the scale of their power but the intelligence behind their strategy. Military leaders debated how humanity could learn from what they had seen, while philosophers and ethicists reflected on the moral lessons. The intervention had shown that immense power carried immense responsibility, and the Deathworlders had wielded it with care, precision, and focus on protecting life rather than simply destroying threats. This principle resonated deeply, challenging humans to rethink their own understanding of strength, ethics, and the responsibility of advanced civilizations. The alien civilization, meanwhile, began the long process of recovery. Medical teams treated the wounded, engineers repaired damaged infrastructure, and civic leaders worked tirelessly to restore order. But even as they rebuilt, the presence of the Deathworlders lingered in their consciousness. Their arrival had not only saved lives, it had demonstrated a standard of power and morality that would shape the civilization's culture, strategy, and priorities for generations to come. Stories of the intervention spread among the population, inspiring awe, fear, and a newfound sense of responsibility. For these aliens, survival had been guaranteed not by their own strength, but by forces they barely understood. It was a lesson in humility, gratitude, and the vast complexity of the universe they inhabited. Humanity, observing and analyzing, began to ask deeper questions. If the Deathworlders could intervene to save a civilization in peril, what might this mean for other worlds? Were there rules that governed when such forces appeared? Did the SOS act as a universal trigger for intervention, or was it simply chance? These questions sparked debates, research, and even fear. The galaxy, humans realized, was not a safe place. Threats could appear without warning, civilizations could fall in moments, and unknown forces could decide their fates. Yet, there was also hope. Humanity had witnessed an example of responsible intervention, a force that wielded incredible power with restraint and intelligence. It offered a glimpse of what might be possible if humans themselves advanced far enough in technology, wisdom, and moral understanding. As days turned into weeks, the alien civilization began to implement changes. Strategies for defense were revised, communications and early warning systems were upgraded, and scientific research expanded rapidly. The SOS had not only summoned help but had provided a catalyst for growth and learning. The civilization understood that survival alone was not enough. They needed knowledge, preparation, and understanding to ensure their continued existence in a galaxy filled with dangers and opportunities. Humanity watched with fascination, noting how the intervention had sparked a renaissance of learning, adaptation, and resilience in the alien society. For the humans monitoring these events, the lesson was profound. The universe was vast, filled with civilizations at different levels of development, and governed by rules that were sometimes visible, sometimes hidden. The Deathworlders had demonstrated that advanced intelligence and power could coexist with morality, responsibility, and protection. Humans realized that their own development, both technological and ethical, would determine their place in this larger cosmic network. The events surrounding the SOS, the Deathworlders' arrival, and the subsequent battle became a case study in the intersection of morality, power, and survival. It was a story that would inspire scientists, leaders, and thinkers for decades to come. Meanwhile, the aliens continued to grapple with the emotional impact. Survivors mourned those lost, yet celebrated their survival. Leaders reflected on their reliance on an outside force, realizing the importance of both humility and self-reliance. Children, who had hidden in fear during the attack, now looked to the skies with a mix of curiosity, admiration, and wonder. The memory of the Deathworlders' presence became a cultural cornerstone, a symbol of hope, protection, and the potential for intervention by forces beyond comprehension. It was clear that this event would shape not only the immediate recovery but the values, strategies, and understanding of the universe for generations. For humanity, the story ended not with closure, but with questions, and inspiration. The SOS had led to a chain of events that demonstrated the complexity, danger, and beauty of the cosmos. It had shown that intelligent life could reach out for help, that unimaginable power could be used responsibly, and that survival often depended on forces beyond immediate comprehension. The galaxy, once a distant and abstract concept, now felt alive, interconnected, and unpredictable. Humans realized that their own civilization, while still young, could one day face similar challenges, and the lessons from observing the Deathworlders would be invaluable in preparing for what lay ahead. As the Deathworlders disappeared into the void of space, leaving both the alien civilization and humanity to reflect on the events, a profound sense of change settled over all. The aliens had survived, the invader had been defeated, and humans had witnessed something far beyond their previous understanding. The universe had revealed its power, its danger, and its possibilities. Humanity had learned that even a single SOS, a simple cry for help, could trigger events that changed the fate of worlds and civilizations. The intervention had been swift, precise, and final, leaving a legacy that would be remembered, studied, and reflected upon for generations. In the end, the SOS that had begun as a desperate plea had become a catalyst for survival, learning, and the alien civilization had a second chance. Humanity had a lesson in cosmic responsibility, and the Deathworlders had demonstrated the immense impact of intelligence, power, and ethical action. Life on that distant planet would continue, forever shaped by the events that unfolded, while humanity would carry the story as a reminder the universe is vast, mysterious, and filled with forces that demand respect, wisdom, and courage. The SOS had led to Armageddon avoided, civilizations preserved, and an understanding of the cosmos that would forever expand humanity's imagination and ambition.